Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Back to the Future Part 3, starring Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, Leah Thompson, Thomas F. Wilson, Mary Steenburgen, Elizabeth Shue, Richard Dysart, forgive me if I said that wrong, Harry Carey Jr., and Flea, and I don't know how that's his name, but it is, and directed by Robert Zemeckis. Now, let's get straight into this because I only saw part of this movie, and honestly, I don't remember enjoying it much, but we'll see what happens. On Saturday, November 12th, 1955, at 10:03 p.m., we pick up where the last movie ended when Marty McFly, returned by Michael J. Fox, comes up to Doc Brown, returned by Christopher Lloyd, and we get the opening credits with the score that sounds typical of Alan Silvestri, and we see on the TV Howdy Doody Time, and I know that one because my dad told me about it. And Christopher Lloyd is having a panic attack because he sees Marty, or should I say Doc, excuse me very much, Marty wants to go to 1885 because of Doc's letter at the end of the last film. And again, nothing makes sense. They figure out a way to get to 1885 and find some time machine buried underground. And we see in September 7th, 1885, Doc is killed by a killer named Bufford Mad Dog 10, and I'm just going to call him Mad Dog, played by Thomas F. Wilson. And they get to a week before that day, which is September 2nd, 1885, and gets encountered by Indians. And this is where the movie gets very unrealistic, because how can a car like that be invented in 1885? And the fuel is shot at by the Indians, and Marty is encountered by a black bear and falls down a mountain and is picked up by Seamus McFly, who will be played by Michael J. Fox, and Maggie McFly, played by Leah Thompson. And Marty calls himself Clint Eastwood, like the actor, which is funny because last time we get an image of a fistful of dollars that starred Clint Eastwood, and he calls himself Clint Eastwood, which is an odd coincidence, in a town called Hill Valley, not Hills this time. Marty explores the town and goes in a salon smelling like horse crap, and bumps into the Mad Dog and makes him dance and taste his own medicine, and gets chased and captured by the Mad Dog as he drags him on the dirt as he's almost hung by until a blacksmith, Doc Brown, saves his life. And this is getting cliche, and I'm not one for westerns as movies, and this is perhaps one of the worst westerns I've seen in my life. Maybe I've seen something far worse, to be fair, but Doc and Marty pull the car back to the blacksmith place with horses as they try to fix it, and it turns into smoke, and says it will take them a month to fix the car. And I don't think I can see this movie taking longer than 2 hours. And this is an hour and 58 minutes, as it's a bit too long. Doc and Marty save the life of Clara Clayton, played by Mary Steenburgen, as she's having a bit of trouble with her carriage, and they instantly fall in love with each other, which is a bit unrealistic. And they instantly, and he takes her to a cabin, and their chemistry was just flat out awkward. Clara visits Doc at the blacksmith shop and asks him to repair her telescope, which makes the movie go on as long as this movie is. And they're at a ceremony of getting the clock to work, and a dance in the West begins, while Doc begins to talk more with Clara, and they dance together. And Marty wonders how Doc can dance, while Marty shoots a fake gun at a gun game. And the Mad Dog arrives at the party, disrupts Doc and Clara's dance by sticking a gun behind Doc, and dances inappropriately with Clara, as well as Seamus and Maggie bump into Marty, and Marty throws a frisbee at the Mad Dog and challenges Marty to a fight with him on a Monday, which is which is a way to stop the death of Doc, I guess is what it is. And this didn't work as well as the first film, and people are rooting for Marty, and I'm getting kind of bored at this point. They make a tombstone for Marty's alias Clint Eastwood, and Doc tells Marty there's something wrong with the future, or his future, I'll say, and Doc doesn't want to go back to the future with Marty as he's in love with Clara, and they have an argument, and Doc believes he's right and moves the car to the train track and thinks about telling Clara goodbye and how much he cares for her, and he'll never forget her. And he's from the future, and she slaps him and doesn't believe him. And the scene is painfully acted, just painful, just so stinking painful. Doc wants to drink whiskey to get over his pain for Clara, which is so painful, which wakes up Marty wakes up the next day and tries to find Doc, and he finds him in the salon as he almost goes back to the future and has one drink of whiskey and suddenly faints, which was pretty funny, I guess, as the townspeople gives him a wake-up juice that'll last him 10 minutes. And he reacts hysterically while Clara gets out of town and Mad Dog arrives at the bar at the same time as Seamus and Marty forfeits the fight, and the Mad Dog counts out down as Marty and Doc try to escape but can't make it out without getting shot and holds Doc hostage. Meanwhile, Clara hears how brokenhearted Doc, in the next scene, Marty comes out to a Mexican standoff between him and Mad Dog and gets shot, and as it turns out, he's wearing a metal bulletproof vest like Clint Eastwood did in A Fistful of Dollars, and beats the daylight out of Mad Dog, and Mad Dog is arrested, which was rather a Western cliche in my mind. Clara gets off the train and tries to find Doc at the blacksmith shop until she sees a time machine as a prop, and Marty and Doc go after the train and stops it to take the engine to move the car, and moves the train and the car to go back to the future as Clara goes after Doc and catches up to the train and hangs on tightly, and she calls for Doc, but he can't hear her at first, and she choo-choos, and by choo-choo I'm talking about whoop whoop the train, and he sees her there, and they come to each other, and Marty throws a flying skateboard to Doc, and Doc stays with Clara, and Marty goes back to 1985, and a train comes towards him, and the car crashes on the train, and Marty gets out of there on time, and the car time, I'll say, / time machine is destroyed for good and gets back to the McFly family and picks up Jennifer Parker, returned briefly by Elizabeth Shue, what a waste, as he kisses her like Sleeping Beauty and takes her in his truck and races Needles, who bullies Marty and gave him, which in the second film fired him from as his boss. Needles was Marty's boss in the second film, but anyways, the point is, around as he almost crashes into a car to race him, Marty doesn't want to race him, which was a silly way to pick on a bully, I'll say. Doc gets back on the train as he's married to Clara with 2 kids and a dog, and gives Marty a souvenir of the photo they took in 1885, and their futures are bright, and Doc flies the train, and the climax is so bad it's cliche to death. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 3.1 out of 10. Better than the second film, but not the worst Western. I've seen worse Westerns, by the way, but it was pretty worse. But there were times it got too cliched to death. The score is not that great by Alan Silvestri, as it doesn't follow the movie quite well, and don't bother with these sequels. Just stick to the original, because that's what I'm going to do in my future, as these 2 movies hurt my love for the original film. So thank you guys for joining me for the Back to the Future series, and until next time, great Scott, let's go back to the future!